mic, all right?
I guess Mike's gonna be back there.
Mike's not coming to the table.
What's that?
Mike's not coming to the table.
On, yes, hello?
That's just where we stand.
Okay, I want to introduce the board first. Sorry. That's why I hate mics. We have Virginia Bryant, Town Council. Virginia is leaving early tonight on family matters herself. We have Mike Carpenter out back, who'll be directing seat traffic for us for a while. We have Michael Miles. We have Henry Hanstein and Alice Linton, Town Clerk, and she'll be taking notes on all your comments tonight and collating them for us. So thanks, Alice. Before I read this, you all got a copy of the town hearing. It was brought to my attention that within the first two sentences, it says the purpose of this public hearing is for the Enfield Town Board to hear the public's opinion on the completeness of the supplemental draft environmental impact statement. It's actually supposed to say the content of, not the completeness. I'm going to continue with all of it, just in case people did not get a copy. The purpose of this public hearing is for the Enfield Town Board to hear the public's opinion on the supplemental draft environmental impact statement on some modifications that the Black Oak Wind Farm has made to their project layout, specifically to potentially relocate 2 of the approved wind turbines to 1 of 3 proposed locations, as well as relocate a substation at a permanent wind measurement tower just south of turbine 4, and relocate approximately 8,400 linear feet of buried collection line, but except as noted, the project would otherwise remain as consisting of 7 wind turbines generating 16.1 megawatts of electricity utilizing the GE 2.3 107 model wind turbines. Black Oak Wind Farm's environmental people, Haley Aldrich, with additions made by our environmental engineers, LaBelle Associates, have presented the Enfield Town Board with a draft EIS regarding these proposed changes, and the board accepted this document as substantially complete and ready for public comment on March 9, 2016. The document is also available online at www.blackoakwindfarmny.com, and a hard copy is at the Enfield Town Hall and the Tompkins County Public Library. The town is then required to open a written comment period and have a public hearing for the purpose of hearing from interested people and agencies as to the completeness of the draft EIS. This period commenced on March 12, 2016, and has been extended to April 22, 2016, with an additional public hearing being scheduled for April 12, starting at 7, same location as we are now. The public hearing tonight has the following requirements from the public. All attendees must sign in, and that's for attendance purposes, which is what Sue has been doing outside the gym doors. Speakers shall form an orderly line in front of the microphone. Speakers shall clearly state their name, address, and organization if they represent, if any. Speakers are allowed to speak once for a maximum of 3 minutes, and Henry will do time, so if you are not sure how long you've been speaking, he'll cue you in. Speakers should try not to repeat previous subjects that have been addressed. Comments should be confined to topics addressed in the draft SEIS. The issues with the turbines, and the ones that are listed in the SEIS. If you make comments on any other, like past or any other issues, you may make comments, but that will not necessarily be addressed. It is what has been on this draft that needs to get addressed for this evening. Speakers should address all remarks to the board as a body and not to any member thereof. Speakers shall observe the commonly accepted rules of courtesy, decorum, dignity, and good taste. No one in the audience is to interrupt the speaker at the microphone. Interested parties or their representatives may address the board by written communications. A few other things. This is not a question and answer session, it's just a comment session. That needs to be clear. There is a map in the back of the room that has the turbines and locations. If you need to refer to that in your comments or you want to look at it afterwards. Let's see. And at the very end, we would appreciate if you helped pack away the chairs on the racks for us, since the custodian is here only till 10 o'clock. I think that was all I needed to address. So, more on, we'll get started.
Hello, my name is Les Wahlberg. I'm the Executive Director of the Noise Pollution Clearinghouse. It's a national nonprofit dealing with noise issues based in Vermont. Sorry. And your problem. And I will be attaching my CV to some written comments that will become later. I have two main comments. The first one is that I've requested the modeling and the monitoring data that supports the EIS. I have participated in many environmental impact statements, environmental impact reports, and such. I've never participated in one in which the modeling and monitoring data has not been provided. This is a common practice. It's kind of like the equivalent of showing your work. If you're a school teacher and your math teacher says, I want to see your work. This is what it is. This is important to analyzing the results. You've got to know how they were achieved. And the time of production is critical to people being able to analyze that. My second major comment deals with the Enfield noise criteria. I have it on the slide right here, which you can't see, but basically it says sound pressure level generated by a WTG shall not exceed 60 decibels above ambient sound levels. This is, as far as I know, the worst, meaning the least protective noise standard in the United States. I'm in the process right now of collecting the noise ordinances and regulations of the 500 largest towns in the country. I have over 500, but I don't know if I've got all of the 500 largest yet. I have a couple more near the end that I still have to get. And a number of them regulate with above ambient standards like you use. You at 60 decibels are 45 decibels above the highest one I found other than that. The tie for second place is 3 different communities: Norman, Oklahoma, Kenosha, Wisconsin, and West Valley City, Utah, all at 15 decibels above ambient. When you combine that with the 39 decibel plus 39.8 decibel background level in the draft supplemental EIS, you get a level of 100 decibels. That too is about the highest that I've ever seen in a community. 100 decibels is a noise level that the World Health Organization and the EPA recommend that people be exposed to for only a minute and a half a day, with the rest of their exposure being basically less than
10
60.
seconds.
And so it's very loud. Second and third place go to another energy industry influenced noise ordinance, and that would be Norman, Oklahoma, and Texas.
Time's up.
Do you want to hear any more about this or not at all?
Well, right, 3 minutes.
Okay.
Fortunately.
Where did you say you were from, please?
Well, my time's up.
So you're not from Enfield?
My name is Jude Gallagher, 215 Connecticut Hill Road, Newfield. It's in Enfield. Mailing address is Newfield.
Can you speak into the microphone?
I'll be following up with my comments, but I want to make some points about the process that relates to this, this supplemental EIS. As a citizen, it's hard to understand why this board is rushing this application through and why there is all this secrecy. It's sort of a game of three-card Monte. So I have filed many Freedom of Information requests, and then the board denies my request, and then I call my lawyer, and he writes and sends them something, and then the board sends me stuff. But I'm still waiting for some of my answers to some of my requests, including what Les just referenced, which is the sound recordings. It's basic law in this state that all correspondence with the town board is public record, and the only explanation for the board's behavior is either the town's protecting Black Oak more than its citizens, or there's been no adequate review of the supplemental by anybody. Black Oak tells everybody that a change is coming, but after reading this supplemental, I still don't know what they're doing. Maybe 2 turbines will be moved, maybe not, maybe 2 new ones in Enfield, maybe 1 in Newfield, maybe 1 in Enfield. Exactly what's happening is pretty hard to know. The town has accepted this SEIS as complete too soon before any board members could even read it. And now we're stuck with calling it complete. What was the hurry? The board failed to properly notice this hearing, and it probably didn't properly notice the hearing in 2013. Why not? Aren't our citizens entitled to know about this hearing? This shouldn't be like pulling teeth. It's the board's job to protect its citizens. Our wind law is a joke. My noise expert has never even heard of a maximum noise limit as high as Enfield's. The setbacks are ridiculous. The board needs to enact a moratorium, give our citizens noise limits and setbacks in line with those of dozens of other towns in this state. The board has the power to change the law retroactively. Despite Black Oak's claim to the contrary, they do not have vested rights. This law can be changed retroactively and should be. Black Oak hasn't built anything in a year, and it's their fault. It is not the town board's fault. As citizens of this town, you should be contacting your board members and demand that they slow this process down, put a moratorium in place, and just like Newfield's doing, and put safe setbacks and noise limits in place. Thanks.
I'm John Ritzich, and I started this progress in 2002. I brought this project to this board, not this particular board, the town board of Enfield. I've been a resident on Hines Road for nearly 40 years. This is one of the worst financial things I've ever done to myself, but still the very best thing that could happen for this town. I think the supplemental EIS is very complete. We've been at this for 14 years. We don't need to wait any longer. We've done years and years and had thousands of meetings and spent hundreds of thousands of dollars doing things the right way. And I believe it's done right, and I urge the board to go along with this process. And we're going to have many, many years of megawatts of clean, renewable energy. And we're going to provide jobs and income to the town and the school districts, and it's all good.
My name is Susan Malter. I live in the town of Ithaca, just a little bit down the road off 79. I'd just like to make 2 points. For the first, I'm speaking as a former assistant professor at Monroe Community College in Rochester. On the first day of every class, I taught my students, don't believe everything you read in print or online, or everything you hear and see on television. And my comment here is in response to the last hearing at which many residents spoke of studies. Who wrote those studies? Who funded those studies? Were they published in peer-reviewed journals? And if those people who were quoting the studies would get the answers to those questions, they might find out that people who are against wind power have created those studies to support their point of view, and that makes the points suspect. My second point, For my second point, I'm speaking as a social worker, which I've been all my adult life, and a cancer survivor of several cancers. We can't control what happens to us in life, but we can control how we respond to it. It doesn't matter whether the it is a diagnosis of cancer, or whether it's a wind farm coming to our town and somebody thinks that's not a good idea. As psychologists and other professionals have long known, when you have negative thoughts about something, it creates negative feelings. And the negative feelings can suppress our immune system so that it doesn't fight off illness like it usually does. So let's use my two examples. My being diagnosed with cancer, someone in the room thinking that the wind farm is a bad idea. If we continue to think negatively, it hurts us. But if with cancer you say, there is life after cancer, there are things I can do to improve my quality of life as long as I'm alive, whether it's nutrition or exercise or friendship or whatever. And if you think the wind farm is a bad idea, you can look at the points that the revised EIS draft tells us that this wind farm proposal has been changed several times in response to the people's concerns. And when fewer wind turbines are built and setbacks are changed, that can make us feel good and positive and thankful to the board and to Black Oak Wind Farm for doing this.
Sure you all know me by now. I'm Don Drake, 105 Griffin Road. I grew up in Enfield. I was born here, raised here. I also have chronic illness. I have rheumatoid arthritis and I have fibromyalgia. I'm highly sensitive to noise. I don't know how I'm going to live next to these things right in our backyard. We're not against wind farms. We're against them right next to our homes. I live on 105 Griffin Road. I have lived up here with my husband for the last 27 years. We have built our dream home and have a beautiful pond out back. I'm mainly concerned about the level of noise these wind turbines are going to be producing. I do not want to hear these in my backyard while I'm gardening or sitting by my pond or while I'm at my home in the window or trying to sleep. Should I not have to give up my personal way of life or here? Not everyone is going to be happy like I've been hearing from our supervisor. This was supposed to be a community project that almost all my neighbors are living right now scared, living in fear of these being constructed so close to their homes. Like I have said before, I am all for green alternative energy, but the outcome is going to affect several neighbors in a way that they're scared to live their normal daily lives. This isn't right. Why should our health, safety, and our way of life be sacrificed for an industrial project? I don't want to worry the rest of my life about ice roads, shadow flicker, and the constant turning of blades 24/7 for the rest of my life. Please hear our concerns. Our concerns, we worry every day about living in our homes. Picture yourself in our shoes in the situation with our worries. Would you then understand? Thank you.
Thank you for hearing me tonight. My name's Robert Tesori, 570 Black Oak Road. One of my biggest concerns with the new proposal is Turbine C. Turbine 2 was abandoned. That was right next to our property, and aside from the safety and health issues being so close, it was also a property infringement. As far as the safety zone, it cut through our property a couple of acres, and I asked the question on the 17th of December, if I want to build, which actually I do, in the back of the property, would I be allowed? And I don't believe I would be issued a building permit to do that if that was right next to it. So it's been said that Turbine 2 was moved in response to our concerns, which I know is not true. Turbine 2 was moved because it wasn't allowed to be moved. Now Turbine C, which is on the corner of Black Oak and Hardy Hill, I learned that one of the property owners down there would like to subdivide the back of their property up into 2 5-acre parcels for their family, and now they can't. So while I'm grateful that we could do what we want with our property, now somebody else is having the same problem that we were. The other point that I wanted to make is the town of Enfield, town of Enfield just passed through a 90-day moratorium, and they're concerned. And I believe that we should take the time and look a little bit deeper. The sound study seems to be a very hot topic, because if they make any noise, especially infrasound, my wife has systemic lupus, I'm worried about that, even if it's not right next to us. So we really, really need to get the facts straight. And I've looked on like the FAA websites as far as the height, and I've asked this before. 5 out of the 8, there's 8 proposed, are listed at 494 feet. 2 of them are 284, which is I've been hearing. I was told that was a typo. I don't know how a typo can get there 5 times, especially when it's FAA paperwork. You need to get it right the first time around, and if we had got it right the first time around, we wouldn't be in this mess right now. Yeah, I think the community would be more willing to accept it, but because, and maybe genuinely, things were done in error, but now it promotes this air of distrust. So that's all I wanted to say. Thank you.
My name is Dr. Robin McKenzie. My wife and I live at 6252 Bauer Road in the town of Hector. The Black Oak Wind Farm site is in our view shed. On a personal level, my wife and I have had a strong interest in alternative forms of energy to reduce our own carbon footprint. And in our 107-year farmhouse, invested in solar hot water, ground source heat pumps, and photovoltaics to the point where we're now carbon neutral in our dwelling. On a professional level, as some of you know, both in my medical and administrative careers, but also retirement, I've been involved in work on quantitative risk assessments of projects and situations with the potential for adverse effects on the surrounding community. With that personal and professional background, I began attending a number of the Black Oak preparatory meetings and spent several hours reviewing many of the aspects of the revised draft environmental impact study with Mr. Mardaglia and his staff, who have impressed me with their understanding, their diligence, and their care for both the human and the natural environment, particularly with regard to setbacks and noise levels. I believe this understanding, this diligence, and this care is reflected in the DEIS. I therefore would like to offer my expression of support and congratulations to the Enfield Town Board on its recent vote to accept the DEIS as substantially complete, and to join many of my neighbors in expressing my agreement with that decision and my strong support for this important initiative. Thank you.
Good evening. My great name is Brad Connors. First, I'd like to thank you for this opportunity to speak. I've lived in this community now over 40 years. Several community members here tonight are friends I've made while here in this community. I'm only here now to offer the public insight on facts of significant importance. Facts very clear that one cannot understand how they might be overlooked. For many reasons, those aware must remain silent. Many choose out of fear of repercussion, frustrating believing their effort is in vain, or personal quest in doing what they believe is right. For some, they are bound by contract or allegiance to a group, organization, institution, or government. I see 4 distinct results in the end. First one is what I believe is most likely based on what I see at this time. Wind turbines installed with significant negative impact on the community in terms of dividing it. 2, wind turbines installed with significant impact regarding safety and health concerns. In addition, this will likely increase the current hostilities between community neighbors. 3, wind turbines installed with negligible impact regarding safety and health. After time, the community calms and accepts this. 4, wind turbines are not installed in this community until more research is done, accurately defining safe limits widely accepted in the industry.
I discovered significant facts during my research on why those with significant knowledge and influence have not endorsed this project, only supported the concept of wind energy. Is silence golden? Is there a monumental benefit we have overlooked? Let's examine the end results mentioned earlier. Project does not happen. Investors and proponents lose. Academia and the intellectual community totally unaffected, receiving no benefit whatsoever. 2, project happens with negligible impact regarding safety and health concerns. Area where turbines are located is now a neighboring research sanctuary for continued studies on impacts of wind energy on the community. 3, project happens with significant impact in all aspects. Realizing now far too little research has been done on the impacts of wind energy. This will drive a tremendous outpouring of funding to better understand and develop new guidelines going forward. Well positioned with a completely developed nearby research sanctuary, complete with live specimens, granting of research funds locally is a certainty. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Mimi Mahaffey. I live at 115 West Enfield Central Road. I'm a member of I'm an alternative member to the Enfield Wind Advisory Committee. But I'm not speaking as a member, I'm speaking only as myself. A fellow committee member, Mike Carpenter, said something at our last meeting that really stuck with me. What I heard him say was that we were running out of time to find a path forward to a win-win resolution. So I was driving home and seeing all the signs, and it became clear to me. This issue has divided the town like no other that I've seen. Husband to wife, mother to daughter, neighbor to neighbor, friend to friend, particularly in my case. Both sides care about the same stuff. I hear from both how deeply they care about their town and the world they live in. All of us fear the ticking time bomb of climate change. We need to stop finding things we don't agree on and find things we do. Everyone here agrees we need to cut the CO2 we are putting into our atmosphere. So I say let's stand down. Let's fire our lawyers and our technical experts. Let's stand together and take whatever megawatts of electricity that the wind facility was supposed to produce and instead commit to cutting that same number or more from our lives. The problem of climate change will not go away if our solution is to produce more. The constant need for more has gotten us into this mess to begin with. As I'm sure all of you are aware, we Americans use double the electricity of most of the developed countries per person. Why not join forces and use our brains and our money, and most importantly our passion, and go person to person, door to door, and reduce our electric use? There is power in numbers. We could do this. Look at all the energy in this room. We need to seize the moment and not let this opportunity pass. The need for sacrifice has been raised a number of times in the past few months. The sacrifice needs to come from all of us, not just one small part of one small town. Like the story of Stone Soup, let's all bring something to the pot and feed everyone. Think of what a model that would be, and think of how healing that would be. And I'll bring the bread.
My name is Jonathan Comstock. I live at 114 Bald Hill School Road in Carolina. And I too am concerned about the divisions that get created in the community. I'm very concerned about a lot of the information and distorted information, misinformation that is being actively spread. I was barely disturbed by the very first testimony tonight by a gentleman who goes on about 60 decibel sounds as if the windmills were expected to make 60 decibel sounds at anyone's home. There's a map in the back that clearly shows that level of sound is not going to be heard at anyone's home. He goes on to say that a 40 decibel sound and a 60 decibel sound will add to a 100 decibel sound. Sounds don't work that way. They do not add in that kind of a fashion. And this is the kind of exaggerated hyperbole that we are getting. Some of the testimony that has occurred in front of the Wind Advisory Committee has It's been along the same kind of exaggerated and distorted lines, and I'm concerned that if the windmill is built, that these are creating divisions that don't need to be there. The studies are fairly clear that sound levels are safe, that the setbacks are sufficient for all manner of safety. Extensive studies have shown in the original SGIS that it is safe for wildlife, for the wetlands, for the ecology of the area, and the changes that have been suggested in the supplemental EIS do not change any of those fundamental findings. So I hope that the board will find a way to go forward to put out accurate information about these issues. Thank you.
Please don't vote with comments. Let's be respectful.
Actually, I do remember a time when the town board got together and tried to put together a plan. And we were very contentious back at that time. We had just moved here. It was about almost 30 years ago. So we had some history of this. We need to start doing this. We need to start listening to each other. We need to start looking at the facts. Yeah, we do need to cut our CO2 use. Absolutely. Is that going to be enough? We need to look at alternative sources, as many and as often as possible. What I found when I was searching through some of this material that you people are talking about on the web, that there are a lot of sources on the web that are not really viable sources. In other words, a lot of fear-mongering in various places on the web. It's important to look at where your information is coming from. And to be certain that you're coming from someplace that's, from a source that's fine, that's a good source. I also think it would be maybe really a good idea for some of you who are worried about the sound levels to check out Fenner, check out Maple Hill. Go up there and see what it sounds like. And remember that we have some of the best and newest wind level, wind power sources. With some of the best technology, the quietest technology. And
Could you please give your name, please?
I live up here. I live up on 429 Hines Road.
Thank you.
Good evening. I'm Ray Steeple. I live in the town of Ithaca, and I appreciate this opportunity to address the board and my neighbors. What isn't under the purview of the SEIS is the environmental impact of not employing all of the renewable resources that we have. I heard on the news this morning that there are 27,000 abandoned oil wells in the Gulf of Mexico. To me, I can't imagine 27,000. The environmental impact of that is significant, but by not employing our solar alternatives or renewables, we're asking for the status quo, business as usual, more drilling, more mining. So my heart feels the pain of the neighbors whose immediate house location and work location is impacted by the wind turbines, the noise, the fear of ice flying. But my feeling is that if we're going to use energy, we need to be responsible for where it is produced and how it's produced. Because if we don't employ the renewables, we're asking people to mine, to drill. It's very dangerous, but it's thousands of miles away. One of these 27,000 abandoned oil holes in the ground, they're going to start leaking. Some of them are from the 1940s. So my feeling is, yes, it's going to hurt some people locally, and I don't feel good about that, but for the greater good, I really feel that we need to employ the alternatives and take responsibility for how we use our energy and where it comes from. Thank you.
I'm Tammy Ellie, and I live on 203 Hines Road. I've been a resident, this is my 20th year on Hines Road for a homeowner, single homeowner. My parents were both raised in Enfield. I'm a volunteer at the fire company. I was vice president of PTA at the school. I have 3 children that went through Enfield School. I have one at Boynton and one at the high school now. I worry every day about our carbon footprint. But do I want to sacrifice the land that I love up there? No. My parents have property on Connecticut Hill Road. I love that property. They never built it because they get more snow. My parents would never want to drive from there in the wintertime. That might be mine someday. I will be able to see, I don't know how many turbines. It makes me sick. My grandparents would be rolling in the grave if they knew. And I'm sure some of these other people's would be too. But everybody makes their choices. My family has too, and it's been very, very difficult. We don't talk about it because of this. My friends, same thing. This has torn us apart. My neighbor across the road, the house has been vacant for over a year. The neighbor up the road, I guess, decided that since my sign was out for safe turbines, that they decided to put their turbine sign across from it where nobody resides. Their choice, I didn't take it down. Everybody has their choices in life. I grow a garden, I do things to save the earth as much as possible. I love this town. That's why I'm a community member. Half of this room are investors. The Cornell will get most of the grid, most of the green out of it. Besides investors, eventually will see this. I like the idea of the internet, and then I read, well, we need internet because you need it for the turbines. It's not because they're trying to give it to the people of Enfield. Though $15,000 a year, I believe I read, which would be a total of $45,000 for a community building on leased school property. This school property and every Ithaca school property has lead in their water. My children have drank. Shouldn't we think about that? What about that? That's your future. That's my future. Hopefully to take care of me someday. Think about that when you think about this turbine.
My name is Beverly Gingrich. I live with my husband and 4 children at 101 Roseville Road. I really wish I could point out to you where it is on the map, because 4 months ago yesterday, we learned about the Black Oak Wind Farm. I had heard about it in the past years, read a couple articles in the newspaper, and just naively presumed, maybe because of where the Met Tower was, that all the turbines were going to be on the west side of Black Oak Road. Imagine my shock when a concerned neighbor came and told me the day after Thanksgiving of last year that where the turbines were going to be, and I went home and got on the internet and found the maps, and lo and behold, 4, all within 0.5 to 0.76 miles of our home, and now possibly 2 more about a little less than a mile away. People say that what you read on the internet can't necessarily be believed, but when I read that people are leaving their homes, boarding them up, can't sleep, have headaches, sleep deprivation, fatigue, stress, panic, depression, anxiety, irritability, memory dysfunction. Yes, I'm worried. We have 6 people in our house. Maybe only one of us will be affected, but to me that's concerning. And the noise, audible sound may not affect us. We may live far enough away, but it's the low frequency inaudible sound generated by turbines which is concerning to me. And I know that the investors and Black Oak Wind Farm likes to call themselves community-owned, but if they don't already know, I would like to make them aware that according to the copy of this letter dated September 17, 2015, sent from Ms. Wells to the Tompkins County Industrial Development Agency, the so-called community-owned Black Oak Wind Farm will be sold. In it, she asks for a transfer of the pilot agreement and tax
abatements to a new owner and says that the project is being sold to Onyx Black Oak Wind LLC, who was able to procure tax equity. So, I just hope the board will make the decision with the interests of the residents who live in the Connecticut Hill area rather than based on money.
I've lived on Connecticut Hill all my life. I've been there 67 years. I've been a farmer all my life up there on that hill. And noise, yes, we have a lot of noise up there. It's the wind. Today, I can hear it over top of my TV in my house. You are not going to hear the wind towers. My son had stopped at a wind tower farm on his way traveling in western New York. And he said between the birds and the wind, he was right up to the towers. You could not hear. You had to wait till the gust of wind quieted down and intensely listen over the birds to hear the noise of a turtle. That's how noisy they are. There's no wind from those turbines. They don't make wind. They're driven by wind. There's 3 I proposed on my farm, possibly 4. I'm going to work right up to the base of these towers with my equipment. Harvesting farm, hay, harvesting buckwheat. I'm not afraid of it. I've done my research years ago when this project started, before I signed on the line to lease my property. It's not all the panic and concern that everybody has. It's, again, all the negativity. You listen to people that have the negativity, all the concerns out there, it's because of the people that are trying to put it down. And the other people that have made all the documentation of how safe they are, the scientists that have done the research, it's all there if you look on the other side of how safe they are. The ice, it drops down, it will flame 50, 100 feet. And you can control, as you say, with the internet. And if there's ice on them, they're sensitive to that. They don't start up flinging ice all over the place anymore. It's technology. We advance all the time. Every year, we're advancing. And if anybody's concerned about the environment, well, again, as far as cutting back on electricity, my electric bill is $55 a month. I don't know how much lower you can get than that. The automobile, that kills our pets, our children, and wildlife every day. And talk about footprint and noise. Okay.
My name's Dan Furlage. I live at 881 Bostwick Road. I've been there for 37 years. I've been sitting at the back of the room, and I've been watching us be human. As people speak to one side or the other of this divisive endeavor, I watch people's heads agree or disagree. I'm sure I'm doing the same thing. I'm a teacher. I've been a teacher for over 30 years. I work with our local kids, Enfield kids, kids from the city of Ithaca, other municipalities. I teach ecology, biology. We look at systems, natural systems, but also human systems, and we compare them. My high school students are quietly terrified every day. They know that our conversations and our meetings and ultimately our decisions will dictate a great deal of what their future will be like. Change is a given. Actually, rapid change is a given. Ma Earth is telling us that a lot of what we're used to, comfortable with, and expect just won't work for a whole lot longer. We have to do something. If Mimi Mahaffey's suggestion that we could substitute all of our efforts, which is doable, she's great, she's absolutely right, all of our efforts to equalize the shift in our abuse of fossil fuels and the resultant climate change that it will bring to our kids. That would be a wonderful thing. I'm skeptical. We're too used to that. We're too used to our patterns of life. It would be difficult. Change has to happen. I was proud of this community. I was very proud of this community when we talked about fracking. We passed a moratorium. We were part of what created a change in attitude that ultimately led to a state ban. Bill McKibben just came out with a paper that accentuates exactly how right we were, exactly how dangerous a lack of such a moratorium or ban at the state level would be to our kids. We have to accept change, and it's going to be differential. It always is differential. In this town, there will be frontline families that have to put up with something that looks different, sounds different, feels different, is different. We have to make the change, people, all of us. I really implore that you feel that in your soul. We don't have to rush, we have to do it.
My name is Annie Cobler. I live at 114 Ball School Road in Caroline. I have been following this very closely. I care about Enfield. There are people here that I know and love. And I've been going to the committee meeting. And I have been distressed by the committee. The acoustic engineer who went on the summit has credibility as an acoustic engineer. He was not supposed to be commenting on health issues, which he has no credibility on. His findings have been thrown out of every court that he tries to testify in, and yet people in the committee were just hanging on the health issues. I'm an insomniac, that's why I've been reading so widely on these issues. A year ago, I was hit with a vertigo that had me down for a week, and I don't live by a wind farm. The thing that you have to remember when you're reading studies is, yes, there are people that are going to have insomnia that live by wind farms. Yes, there are people that are going to have headaches and every other possible illness. The issue is, how does that relate to the rest of the public? You know, you cannot just say, oh, everybody that has headaches by wind farm, sign up for this study. That is not how epidemiology works. And I would really ask the committee to just look at how epidemiological studies work and how much of that you are hearing in this committee. We have to get our energy from somewhere. I'm part of Energy Independent Caroline. We are really suffering with our tax dollars decreasing. And if we could have this wind in Caroline, we'd take it in a heartbeat. We're losing our rural ambulance service because our tax base just can't handle it anymore. And that is a big concern for us. There are school dollars that are going to come from where? This is like, I heard someone say this is a sacrifice zone. You have the gold, folks. You have the resource of the future here in Enfield. You are the winners. Anyway, I really care about this community, and I hope that you will see that all the rest days have been done. That's what's been taking all these years, and nothing has changed with this new draft environmental impact statement. Please move ahead before this right away. Thank you.
I'm Marguerite Wells, 863 Hicks Road, and project manager for Black Oak, as you know. Having been working on this project for 9 years now, it has always been part of our approach to make it something that Enfield would be proud of and that would be a good thing for the community. And so that is why so many local people have invested. And that is why we want, we gave a more generous pilot agreement than any farm in New York has ever given, because we're not trying to be stingy. We're trying to share and give tax dollars and make improvements to our town. That's why we're offering to fix the road after we've finished using it. I would posit that there are other businesses in this town that have at least as large an impact on property values as anything the wind farm might have. Enfield is a town with no zoning. You can build anything you like right up to your property line. So, Doug Everhart could put in a giant pig farm. And if his next door neighbor's allergic to pigs, well, it's tough for his next door neighbor. There's nothing anyone can do. It's a right to farm law, and he can raise pigs if he wants to. And that would have a pretty serious impact on his neighbor's property value, I would guess. But it's a free country, and it's a free town. And so to pin too much on the wind farm that we don't pin on anyone else in town seems like an unfair burden, especially since we have a lot to contribute, adding to the taxes, fixing the roads, putting hundreds of thousands of dollars into local people's pockets with the lease payments and the good neighbor payments. And so the opponents, I would like to ask the question, what are you offering the town? How are you going to add to the tax base? Are you going to fix the roads? Are you going to put money into your neighbor's pockets? I think Mimi's proposal of cutting energy use is a great one, but it doesn't go far enough, really, because it only addresses some of the things that this project is really about. I think Enfield would become a real landmark and have something to be really proud of if we have this wind farm, in the same way that the town of Fenner is really proud of its wind farm. They made a whole renewable energy center about it. And many other towns. I just spent about a week in northern New York, where there are 4 towns that have 4 wind projects, 500 turbines, and they've been living with those turbines, the people there, for 7 or 8 years. And I've driven all around that town, and I talked to people throughout it, and I didn't run into a single person who's been living next to wind turbines for 7 years who had a problem with it. The whole town is supportive. Every single person I talked to, they love the tax revenues. They have no property taxes in those towns anymore. And they just said, we can't wait for more turbines to get built. That is the attitude of the people who actually live there. What we've proposed in this draft EIS was a response to some neighbors' concerns, trying to be compromising, to say, look, you didn't like the original approved layout, a few of you have concerns, here's a changed up version that we are doing our best to address your concerns. We can't address everyone's concerns, we can't make everybody happy, but it is an attempt. Many other developers wouldn't even bother to attempt. Thank you very much.
I live on Caroline Depot Road in Caroline, and I've lived in Tompkins County for the last 36 years. So I'm a supporter of the wind farm. I understand that these are big machines and you want to have adequate setbacks, but we do. The wind farm has spent a lot of money hiring engineers and other experts who have advised them about the placement so that it would not have a big impact on any of the neighbors. The proposed changes do not change any of that. The original proposal was approved, and I would strongly urge the town board to approve the minor changes that have been proposed. I would like to point out to the people who are opposed to the wind farm that there's a lot of misinformation out there. The first speaker who spoke today talked about adding 60 decibels at 40 decibels and getting 100 decibels. As any freshman engineer will tell you, sound doesn't work that way. Decibels are a logarithmic scale. When you add 60 and 40, you get slightly more than 60. Besides that, the numbers 60 and 40 were wrong, but pardon me? I'm addressing points that were made earlier. Okay.
Town board put out some guidance here.
Okay. Another misconception that was pointed out, another misconception that was put forth is that Cornell will be benefiting from buying this power. They're buying it at a loss. Okay, they're doing the world a favor by buying this power. Okay. Infrasound was another issue that was raised. Infrasound is, by definition, is sound that you cannot hear. It's made by wind, it's made by waterfalls, it's made by your refrigerators. Okay? Somebody, when I talked to somebody before, they said, oh, it's only the periodic infrasound that's bad for you. The refrigerators make the periodic infrasound cheap. So I would urge the town board to please go ahead and very quickly approve the changes.
My name is Marcus Gingrich, 101 Rosie Hill Road. I am an engineer by trade. I work in research. So I am somewhat familiar with engineering concepts. I'm also familiar with research papers. I've worked in the peer review process. I thought you might find it interesting to know that Albert Einstein had one peer-reviewed paper out of several hundred. So apparently you can write good papers without them being peer-reviewed. I'm not saying peer review is bad. I've been involved in it, and it's a little disconcerting. I would like to say a couple of things about the SV, or whatever this is by now. There's a proposal to move 2 of the turbines potentially near my location. I live with my wife, 4 children. We currently, in the current configuration, would have 4 turbines within about a kilometer or a little less. With the proposed configuration, which I have to take the worst case, which means 2 of them will be going into Enfield, we would have 6 within less than a mile of my home, basically arrayed in a nice array. So we're going to get hit in any direction of the prevailing wind. Now, I know a lot of people say, and Black Oak in their EIS says infrasound is no issue because Jeffrey Leventhal says it's no issue. There's actually reports in his own testimony in front of the Public Service Commission where he accepts that it can have effects. Now, do wind turbines produce infrasound? Yes. Is it the same as a refrigerator? Probably not. It's impulsive. It occurs at very low frequency. To say that we cannot hear it at those levels is probably correct. However, there are studies that show via fMRI, EEG, that the human brain, when a person is subjected to infrasound in the bands, in the frequencies that wind turbines produce, the human brain responds, even though they do not hear it. So to say that we do not physiologically respond to infrasound from wind turbines would seem to be false. These are peer-reviewed studies. The other thing that is generally found in peer-reviewed studies is that there is annoyance from wind turbines and sleep disturbance. To say that sleep disturbance is just a little problem seems a little weird because sleep is so important. University of Rochester Medical Center, I'll just say University of Rochester Medical Center has shown lack of sleep can cause neural damage.
I am Eric Bass, I rode up on 37 Candlehill Road. I wasn't actually going to talk, but there's a few things that people brought up that are quite fascinating to me. I do realize that we need clean energy, there's no question. We got to get away from oil and things like that. But there's a lot of concerns I have. Number one that really sticks to my mind is the proposed substation and the turbine is actually on the property that adjoins me. I've gotten no official notification at all that the Black Oak Wind Farm is going to be spread around as far as it is. Years ago, when it was first proposed, we put up this test turbine, and that's where myself and my father, who's now 96, remembers where that was going to be. Since then, I've heard that the property owner decided to demolish it. Okay. Sound. People are talking about infrasound. That's what Alex told me about. I'm a permanent sufferer of tinnitus. 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. The way that elephants were determined to communicate over a long distance was through infrasound. Someone was at a zoo, a researcher from Cornell, they actually felt this in their body. And they recorded the sound, sped it up, and there it was. Does it damage people's hearing? I have no way of knowing. I've looked at studies from both sides. There aren't enough studies. The other thing that I have not been in any place else for this stuff, took 2 days to study this or 3 days, sorry, this last week. The number of birds and bats killed are excused by New York State, by the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service, that they say it's not a problem. The Audubon Society has testified before Congress and said there is a major problem. Supposedly 2.4 million to 4 million bats and birds are killed every year by humans. So I asked the board, has the Audubon Society been contacted? They will come up and do a site search. At no cost, yes. So these are very major concerns for me. They talk about the ice being thrown or something like that. The survey of the bird kills underneath the turbine is something like 200 yards. They found through the study that actually the carcasses can be thrown up to 500 and some yards. But those aren't put into the studies because they're not put into the studies because they aren't counted. They don't fit that 200-yard minimum. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Jared Jones, and I live in the town of Ithaca, about 5 miles east on 79. I live in a community where we have to make a lot of decisions together, and one of the bottom lines that we frequently have to deal with is when you make a proposal, can people live with it? Can other people live with it even though it may not be a perfect proposal? And it's in that community, we often have to ask and appreciate the we rather than the me. And that's what I think we're talking about the town of Enfield and the community of Enfield. I think that's the way you should be looking at it too. And the last thing that echoes Dan Forlage's thing is, if we always do what we've always done, we'll always get what we've always got. We can't keep doing the same thing and go ahead. We've got to make some changes. So, thank you.
Anyone else?
Gary Fisher, I live on Lake Road South. First, I'm really disappointed in the town board not rules as far as people not addressing other people who have spoken. I think you should have stood up for that. I guess the one thing that concerns me is that obviously there's going to be an impact on the personal environment and safety of individuals in this construction. And there may be some physical adversity to individuals. But most certainly, there will be some mental issues. And I think that you really need to take that into consideration. People that are living close by, that are going to be impacted, whether it's, physical or mental, but obviously the mental will be there, the increased stress, which has an adverse health effect. And I think that needs to be really addressed and be a major issue in deciding whether or not you move forward. Thank you.
Good evening. Thank you for this opportunity to speak this evening. My name is Sue Schultz. I'm a local educator in the community, and my family and I built a home on Black Oak Road about 8 years ago. I've attended many board meetings to stay informed, and I've also done research on my own. Turbine 5's location is a concern to my family, my property, and my home. Its close proximity causes a concern for all these issues that have been mentioned tonight, but specifically ice blade throw. The nearest corner of my property line is only 549 feet away. GE has recommended a setback distance of 989 feet if icing is to occur. So GE must consider icing to be a concern if they have set this distance setback. Other scientists and studies have recommended even further setback distances to remain safe from icing issues. At least half my property will be vulnerable to ice, considering only GE's recommendations. Unfortunately, I cannot move my property. I cannot move my home. To me, it's simple math. There's just not enough room to safely install an industrial windmill farm on Black Oak Road. Thank you.
J.D. Hart, 183 Griffin Road. My grandparents built New Hart's Lodge. We lived right close to them. This project's far from being safe at all. It's the wind towers are 483 foot tall, and they got them off your property line 200 and some foot. I just asked the board to reconsider and change setbacks. Thanks.
It's Chad Newhart. I own land on 146 Griffin Road. The Newharts are my family too. We all live up there. I just asked the town board to do their job for the residents, not the investors, and give us safe setbacks. Thanks.
My name's Luann Fisher. I live at 377 Harvey Hill Road on the corner of Black Oak and Harvey Hill. I'm not going to argue any of the points that are going on here. I mean, you have your ideas, you come to your conclusions behind it. But it is very difficult for me. I'm not one that normally gets up and speaks. And right now, my concern of living where I live is I suffer from severe migraines. I'm suffering from one now. So bear with me whatever comes out. I also have depression that I suffer from. I am not allowed to work. So you say this noise is not going to be about it. I am going to have it 24/7, every single day, every single night. If there's flicker, I will see it every single day, every single night. We have built we didn't build our house. Gary can keep me strong. Gary's my husband's cousin. We bought the house that we live in from my husband Bradford's parents. Don had the farm up there, 300 plus acres. We made a sanctuary of our house. We put all kinds of money from the estate where they were killed a few years ago into bringing this house up. We've made a sanctuary with birds, with animals, so I can have solitude, so I can live. See this pristine, beautiful landside. Knowing I live in the Finger Lakes with beautiful mountains, beautiful lakes, solitude, and wonderful, wonderful people. We just made our last 30-year mortgage payment. The property is ours. Is it going to be like this? I can't afford to go. We're in retirement in 2 years. The gentleman that was talking about the people that live, that wanted to give it to their children, to divide that 10 acres, give them 5 each. That's us. For 30 years, that's been our intention. We would take our 2 acres in-house. They would have the field in the back. They got to be able to do that now? No. They're too close. They can't build. For 30 years, we've given our life, we've worked our hearts out, we've lived on this land, and now it's worthless. Except Donald and Arlene Fisher and Brian are buried on that land. We were going to be buried on that land. We won't. We'll leave. If our house is worthless, we will leave the town of Enfield and go someplace where our lives and our home and our family are not worthless.
Anyone else? I guess we'll call the hearing at a close. Remember that April 12th is the next public hearing for comments, and you can submit written comments to the town also, or extend what you were not able to complete here in your 3 minutes. Thank you.